Welcome to Behind the Crown Podcast with your hosts, Brian Hudson and Josh Griffin. Sit back and enjoy these great stories and memories of the Kingsmen Quartet.
Welcome to another great episode of Behind the Crown Podcast with your hosts, Brian Hudson and Josh Griffin. My name is Brian Hudson. Josh Griffin, how are you doing tonight?
Brian, I'm doing well, sir. How's full-time Brian Hudson doing up there in Ohio?
Well, I'm doing all right. Got out a little yard work today, and there's a couple good-sized trees back behind the house. I've got a couple hedge trimmers, and I've got one of those big pull-down limb trimmers, you know. So I was trimming some limbs, and one hit me right in the face and got me on the eye there. If it would have been over another 2 inches, probably would have pulled my eye out, knocked my eye out. So anyway, I'm a little sore tonight, but doing well. Things okay in Georgia tonight?
Yes, sir. We're doing good. Hey, man, we had low 50s for the morning time. That's unheard of. But
I would imagine.
I was glad to see it. I know 90-degree and 100-degree weather's coming, so I wasn't complaining.
It's on its way, Josh. It's on its way. Well, if you're just joining us on the podcast tonight, this podcast is dedicated to the message, the men, and the music of the mighty Kingsmen Quartet. We have a special guest tonight, but before we get to our special guest, Josh, do we have a piece of useless information that we need to share with the world tonight?
Yes, we do. And I'm going to borrow one from along Brian Hudson's famous food information.
Okay.
But this one here is from my good friend Daniel Mount from Southern Gospel Journal podcast. He sent to me. He said, KFC is famous for their 12 spices and herbs mixture. Their X or Twitter account follows 11 spices, actually members of the Spice Girls, and the Old Spice account, and 6 random men named Herb. How about that?
You may have to read that all again, Josh. That's a lot of information.
Yes, it is. So the KFC X account, which is Twitter, used to be called Twitter.
Okay, yeah.
They followed the 11 spices, Old Spice deodorant, and then each Spice Girl member. Girls. Yeah, that's right. And then 6 random men that their first name is Herb. How about that?
Well, Josh, let me ask you, speaking about KFC, I think we talked about some other fast food restaurant a few weeks ago, but are you a KFC fan? You like KFC?
I really have Bojangles. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But it's okay. Yeah.
I do like KFC's coleslaw.
Okay.
I like the coleslaw. I like their coleslaw. And now back in the day, KFC they had a buffet sometimes.
Yes.
And that was pretty good. In some of the smaller towns, they had a buffet at the KFC. So, but yeah, my grandmother, she loved chicken, man. She loved fried chicken. If it was Sunday afternoon, she was eating fried chicken, I guarantee you. Oh, yes. Well, I have a piece of useless information, and this does not have anything to do with food. And that's rare for me because most of my useless information facts have something to do with food. So here's mine. Your brain cannot invent faces. So if you see a stranger in your dream, you have seen that person somewhere before. Your brain cannot make up a face. So if there's a random person in your dream, you have seen that person sometime in your life. Ain't that wild?
That is crazy. Yes, sir. That is crazy.
Wild.
So you're not dreaming nothing new. You just something you see. It's the person you've seen before. That is.
Oh yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. So they also say a person dreams every night. You just don't remember all your dreams. So they say you will dream every single night. So
that's true for me. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on. Josh, who is our special guest on the podcast this evening?
Yeah, it's our great honor to get talked to a great tenor singer. Loved him when he was with the Kingsmen. Love him now that he's with Gold City. Current Gold City tenor singer Chris Jenkins.
Chris Jenkins, how you doing, man?
Hey, everybody, I'm good.
Now that's not what you say. You got to do what you you have to say what you say on Double Take, your podcast.
Yeah,
you got to give us one of those.
Hi, friends.
There it is.
That's full time. Yeah.
Well, Chris, man, thank you for joining us tonight. We realize that you're on the road singing with Gold City. 200 plus dates a year probably, and So your time at home is very valuable, and so we appreciate you joining us tonight. We've been looking forward to this for a long time, brother. Seriously.
Well, I appreciate it. I know it's been a long time in the getting to do this. We've scheduled it and rescheduled it several times, but I'm glad that we finally got it nailed down.
Me too, brother. Me too. Well, like Josh mentioned a moment ago, you're doing a great job with Gold City, but take us back a little bit. Of course, you really got people started recognizing you really when you joined the Kingsmen. You kind of made your way into the full-time arena, I guess you might say. But before then, take us back a little bit and kind of give us your history of kind of where your love of music started.
Well, I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina, central part of Carolina, and my love for music started with my grandfather. He was part of a local quartet there in the area called the Beacons Quartet,
Okay.
and they were just four guys from our church that they went around to nursing homes and different churches and just sang locally,
Yeah.
and but he always loved gospel music and introduced me to a lot of great groups. And I remember when I was little, the main ones that we listened to were Gold City, the Kingsmen, and Heaven Bound.
Okay. Heaven Bound. Okay.
Heaven Bound was big in my area because they were from North Carolina.
Right.
So we got to see them quite a bit. And grew up right up the street from the Hoppers, and so we went to they had a little camp meeting thing north of Greensboro every year at Pentecostal Conference Center, and that's the first place that I remember hearing Heaven Bound and the Greens and Gold City and the Kingsmen, and they would bring all those groups in, and that's one of my earliest memories of concerts is going to that and hearing all those groups. And then as I got older, I bought my own music, found my own records. I got my grandfather's record collection and started going backwards and kind of discovering groups that were his favorites back in the day, like the Fisher Brothers and the Goodmans, and the Imperials was one of his favorite groups. So I kind of discovered, got to discovering some groups that wasn't necessarily in my generation. That I had missed back in the 70s. So I just kind of grew up listening to all of it. And but those were the main ones. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Chris, one of my favorite questions I always ask each week. Tell us about your Kingsman audition, please, sir.
That's an interesting story. I was working, for those of you who may or may not know, I was involved in banking in my former life. See, I've always wanted to sing gospel music, and but back then there wasn't a thing such as social media. There wasn't Facebook. There wasn't Instagram. There was hardly internet. Back in those days, but. So I never really got to know anybody as far as having a connection for somebody to tell me, hey, this job's open or that job's coming open. So the only way I knew was through the Singing News. And of course, run 2 months in arrears. So by the time I would find out, about a job, it had already been filled. Well, I remember singingnews.com had come out at that time, and they had started posting news stories on singingnews.com. And I'll never forget, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the day after Christmas, and to 2011. And of course, I had kept up. I kept up with that stuff all the time. I kind of, even though banking was my thing, my hobby was studying Southern gospel and the groups. So I kept up with all the news. So I knew that, you and Harold had left at the end of 2011, Brian. And so, but I was sitting at my computer the day after Christmas, and I saw the headline come through that Harold Reed had left, or that's when they had put the news release out, and immediately sent a demo to Brandon and Ray, or the email that they had provided. And it just so happened that me and my regional group that I was traveling with at that time, I had kind of started a regional group, and we had cut a record up at Crossroads.
Okay. Okay.
It had just released maybe 3 months prior to that. And so we had just worked with Jeff Collins and Danny Crawford and all the musicians there at Crossroads. And so had gotten to know them real well because we were the first artist on their new introductory label called Skyline Records.
Okay.
And so they had just signed my regional group to that introductory label. So, I sent them demos of that recording or whatever.
Okay.
And I got a call back, and it was on January the 15th is when I went to Hickory, North Carolina, and the Kingsmen were there. And Brandon and Ray said, come a little bit early, we'll sing around with the guys. Well, see, I didn't know at that time, Ray had just gone through his prostate cancer.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Randy Crawford was out with his heart valve replacement.
Yeah.
Bob Sellers was brand new. Ernie was on the road with him, filling in, little Ernie Phillips. And so, it was kind of I didn't know it was such a tumultuous time.
Yeah.
Kingsman during that time with all that going on. And, they were trying to find a tenor singer and lead singer and, had just filled that with Bob. And so anyway, didn't know all that walking in, but I remember going to that little church that Sunday night, and me and Bob and I and Ray, and I think Ronnie Bright was filling in for
I think that's right, yeah.
At that time, and we all stood around and sang "Meet Me at the Table." That was the first song I auditioned with, and I had been a Kingsman fan for years, so I was hoping they would throw in some of those classics.
I
the old one, what they were staging at that time, but so that helped me a lot to be able to start out on a song that I was very familiar with.
Yeah, oh yeah,
and then. I think we maybe did another one. I can't remember what it was. And then the third song, Brandon said, "Now I didn't send this to you, to learn, or you probably didn't know that you were going to have to sing this." He said, "And if you don't know it, that's okay."
Yeah.
He said, "But I want to hear you sing this song called 'Oh What a Savior.'"
Okay.
He said, "Do you know it?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I've sang this song just about with every group I've ever been."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, he hit the track, and we, went off with it. We went. And, so that was my first time singing "Oh What a Savior" with the Kingsmen, and ended up being part of our regular program.
Yeah.
After I came with the group. But what I thought was special, I'll say this about my interview. What I thought was very special was that, I learned later that Ernie kind of made himself scarce during that time. He didn't, he knew how much people respected him, how much people respected him. Of course, he was a very humble man, but he still recognized that. And he kind of, he wasn't around. He didn't sit and listen because I think he wanted to make me feel more comfortable by him not being there.
Oh yeah.
And I, respected him for that. And of course, he was still with him my first weekend, and he was probably my biggest cheerleader of anybody on the bus.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Ray said he went back to the bus that night after our audition. He said, "That's your man, Ray, right there. That's him."
Yeah.
And but he was such an encourager, and I miss Ernie.
Yeah. Ernie, he was one of a kind, and I can just see him. In fact, we talked to Daniel Mount a few weeks ago, and he said he was able to be there at your audition. Yeah. He just went over to hear the guys, hear the group that night. And he said, little did he know when he arrived that it was your audition. So he said it was really cool. He got to sit in and listen to you audition. And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and so did you happen to sing "Glory Road"? You know if you sang "Glory Road" or not, or can you remember?
I think so. That may have been the second one we did.
Yeah,
it'd been odd if we didn't sing it. I'm sure.
I was going to say Josh and I have talked about numerous times about and it doesn't really matter what part you're going to be, especially if you're auditioning for the tenor part for the Kingsmen, you're going to sing "Glory Road," and so that's kind of a have to type thing. But
Yes,
So, in fact, I've got some stats. Let me go ahead and read the stats for you.
Hi, this is Jason Self, former bass player and vocalist of the Kingsmen. Thanks for supporting Behind the Crown podcast.
So you officially joined, are you talking end of January 2012? Does that sound right?
Well, I auditioned on January 15th, but they were still trying people out. So
Okay.
I didn't start traveling with them until March. It was March 23rd or something.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ernie would go, he went with them while they were still trying people out and things like that. Of course, I had to work a notice, with the bank. And funny story is, when I would go on the road just riding along with them, I had already exhausted all of my vacation,
Yeah.
sick time and everything. But so I in the back of my mind, I was like, this better pan out.
Yeah, this better work. Yeah.
Because the rest of the years I'm locked up at the bank if it don't,
Well, and that's what, most of the fans don't realize. That's what's so difficult about when you find somebody to fill in for a group. You've got to find somebody because most people work Thursdays and Fridays normally.
Right.
So to find somebody that can fill in for a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Sunday is oftentimes difficult because they can't get off work to go those 2 dates, typically, so finding somebody to fill in is not an easy gig sometimes. So
that's true.
Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and read your stats. You joined as tenor in 2012. 2012, you recorded Once Again. 2013, Front Row Live. And then in 2014, you did Battle Cry. And all of those albums were, of course, you and Bob Sellers and Randy Crawford and Ray and, of course, Brandon. And then you had a #1 song with Battle Cry in 2015. I Never Seen the Righteous Forsaken. And that was a song that featured you, correct?
It was, yeah.
And that was a great song, by the way. So
it was that was one of the first ones that I remember us holding, when we were looking for songs for that new record. And that was a Rebecca Peck cut.
Yes.
And, it's funny, still to this day, I have people come up to me and they'll say, of all the songs, and it wasn't even a single, but of all the songs, they'll say, I love Never Seen the Righteous Forsaken. And it kind of took on a life of its own because youth choirs all around the country, especially, traditional, Baptist type choirs, they would get in there and just, nail it to the wall. They were doing it. And the only way they would have heard it was from that record because nobody else had recorded it. But
because it wasn't released to radio or anything. So, but
that's right.
And that's a real testament to a song that churches, not just Southern gospel groups or local artists, but if groups and the choirs if a choir at a church is singing your song, that's pretty big. That's pretty huge.
That's true.
Okay. So, and then, Oh Yes, I Am. I was a #1 song in 2015. The Cross of Grace was a top 10 song in 2015. Another song called Faith featured you. Now, you have any thoughts on that song or any stories on that?
I always love that song, and it's I tend to forget about it, that it was on that record, but from my recollection, that was the first Kenna Turner West song that the Kingsmen.
Yeah.
She was writing a lot of progressive stuff for that time.
Yeah.
And that was her first Kingsman cut.
Yeah.
I love that song. We used to do it, we used to stage it a lot, and it's a fantastic song, and I love the message. And I think Bob did the verses, and I would take it on the chorus, and then, it was arranged really well to where it fit our voices.
Oh yeah, it was a dynamic song, seriously. And then, of course, Isla Knight wrote the song "I Know" for you guys, and of course, we love Miss Isla, and that was a top 10 song in 2016. You left for a little while, okay. And then you came back in 2017. Is that right? 2017, you came back?
Yeah.
And then in 2019, y'all did a killer album called Victory Shout.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a massive album. Of course, that was you and Chris Bryant and Alan Kendall. and Ray and Brandon, of course. And you had number one song in 2019 with Victory Shout. I've Ever Been Glad. That was a top 10 song in 2020. And then King of Kings. I don't know that I know that song. I don't remember that for some reason. I don't know why I don't remember that, but that was also a top 10 song in 2020.
I'm trying to remember who wrote that, and I can't remember. Of course, I remember the song, but
yeah,
I can't remember who wrote it. But that album had a lot of great songs on it, and it was a little, forward leaning for the Kingsmen at that time. But I think that album, we went back and grabbed Prodigal Son from the
that's right,
the 90s and recut that and had it.
Well, so let me ask you, when you were with the Kingsmen, did you were you instrumental in trying to find some of the material for the albums?
Yeah, I was kind of the guy that, everybody would send the songs to me, and then I would kind of field through them. And I was thinking about this the other day. I really don't know why they had the new guy go through stuff like that, but they did. And I remember hearing "Oh Yes I Am" on the Battle Cry album. It ended up going number one, and Greg Bentley from the publishing company sent that to me, and he's like, "Man, I think this will be good for you and Ray to do some step outs on." And and then Victory Shout. I remember me and Brandon sitting in the front of the bus, and Kenna had sent him two cuts. He sent him Victory Shout and Dear John off of that record that he had co-written with Joseph Habedank. And Brandon said, "No, there's two songs on here," but he said, "I really want you to pay attention to the one." Well, after we got through listening to both of them, I said, "Man, I like that first one." He said, "Oh," he said, "Well, that one's okay," but he said, "I was kind of leaning toward the Dear John." He said, "I think that would be good." I said, "Well, it is good," but I said, "No, that first one," I said, "That's a number one song right there." Do it right. Put it on Preston Wood type choir behind it. I said, that's a hit. And so I mean, without, I'm modest, but I mean, I was instrumental in picking out a lot of those songs, and I'm thankful that Ray and Brandon trusted in me enough to do that. And,
right. Well, and you mentioned Dear John, and that was a top 10 song for you guys. And so, and then in 2021, you all did More to the Story. Okay. And let's see, These Are the Days was a top 10 song in 2021. When the old story was new. I always liked that song. That was a top 10 song in 2022. The Church of the Great I Am was a number one song for y'all in 2023. And What the Blood Does was a top 10 song in 2023. And then you did a Christmas album, 2022, called "'Tis the Reason."
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great Christmas record. That really was.
It was a good record. And, anybody I've ever traveled with will tell you I'm not much on Christmas music. So I was kind of dreading doing that. But when we started listening to the original song, the original material that was on there, like "The God Who Gives Himself Away."
Yes.
"There Is Peace," which was my feature on that album. There's just the lyric content I thought was so good.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being a fun album to do. Just it was only, I think, maybe 5 or 6 tracks, but it was still a great album, and I enjoyed doing it.
Well, I'm a firm believer that I think that every group should have a Christmas album. I really do think that, because especially there was a couple times during my second tenure, we would go to a church and it would be like first part of December, and the pastor would get up and say, "Thank you for coming tonight for this Christmas concert." And I'm like looking at the other guys singing, "Christmas concert? We did not know this was a Christmas concert." We literally had 3 Christmas songs.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh no. And so I would do a little Holy Night. We would do something else. But so every group should really have a Christmas album. That was great. And the songs you guys did that were not originals, they weren't the ones that everybody does.
Right.
I felt like you had a good mixture of songs that they're Christmas songs that you recognize, but not everybody was doing those songs. So
True.
Right.
And I will say, I've told Alan this: "The God Who Gives Himself Away" is one of my favorite songs, man.
Incredible song.
Just just an incredible, like you said, incredible song for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Chris, during your Kingsman tenure, did you have a favorite song, whether it be a classic or current song at the time that you like to sing?
Meet Me at the Table was always my favorite Kingsman song since I was a kid. That was always my favorite. But as far as, an original that I was a part of, I'd have to say Victory Shout probably is my favorite to sing. It just is so worshipful, and like I said about Never Seen the Righteous, I still have people walk up today and ask me about. They'll say, you were with I remember when you were with the Kingsmen and y'all had that song, and of course I know they're either talking about Never Seen the Righteous, Oh Yes I Am, or Victory Shout. So I've got a 33% chance of getting it right. But most of the time it's Victory Shout, and but I did enjoy singing that one. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's all. Well, and those three songs you just mentioned were incredible songs. I mean, y'all, the blend you had with either Crawford or Bob, or you and Chris and Alan, you got, and of course Ray, the blend was always there. You guys always had a great blend, no matter who the other parts were, and so that helps a song that helps a song, in my opinion, be even better when you have a good blend. When you have a good blend.
And Brian, I'll mention right quick too.
Yeah.
I've watched the video on YouTube from the Memphis Quartet show a couple years ago with yourself, Chris, and Alan and Ray, and Andrew Ishii was playing piano, Scoot Shownote on bass, but y'all did Meet Me at the Table, and y'all had that thing just kicking, just driving. I mean, that's how you done it. That's how you open up a program right there.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
I don't know how many times I watched and listened to that video a bunch of times, but that's great stuff. Yeah.
Well, Chris, did you have a least favorite song when you was with the Kingsmen? Now, some guys we've asked, they didn't have one, but did you have a least favorite?
Thinking about it, I can't say that I do. And as bad as this sounds, I hate to even use this song as an example, but Wish You Were Here, as great of a song as it is, we had to do it. It's sort of like, the Midnight Cry. I mean, you can't leave a concert hardly without doing Wish You Were Here. And it's not that it wasn't a great song. It was. It just kind of got, we did it every night.
Yeah.
There wasn't really much else that you could do with it to kind of make it.
That's true. That's true. You kind of have to sing it the way it was originally done, and there's not a whole lot of change into it. So I get that. Well, I mentioned a moment ago that you had left for a short time and you came back. And, once a Kingsman, always a Kingsman is a kind of a motto that the Kingsmen have had for years and years ago. So, for years. And so, like I said, you left for a little while and you came back. But my question is, was there less pressure when you came back for your second tenure than it was for your first tenure? Was there less pressure on you?
Oh, absolutely. In a different way. When I first came with the Kingsmen, there was a lot of, YouTube was starting to get big at that time in 2012, when I first came with the group. And so everybody was putting everything on YouTube, and everybody has a comment and everybody has an opinion. And, sometimes I'd get hammered in those comments for, this and that and the other. I didn't sound like Shepherd. I didn't sound like Harold. I didn't sound like Ernie. Y'all should, you should have kept Ernie, or, just all that stuff. And I just kind of, for a couple of years, I just had to not pay attention to YouTube at all. And, you would want to go watch to kind of see things that you could critique or do better. But for a while, I didn't pay attention to it because I didn't want to get that in my head.
Yes. Yeah.
And, there were people along the way that, really encouraged me, and I thought they shot me straight with, what they were saying, and gave me encouragement and, some pointers here and there. But the second time I came, the pressure, that pressure was off.
Yeah.
Already, we'd already had 2 or 3 number one songs at that point, and it was, or I had with the group. And so, the pressure was off, but 6 months after I came back is when, Bob left and Randy had his strokes and he had to come off the road. And so the pressure was now on me to help Brandon and Ray put another group together.
Yeah.
And find songs for a new album. And all of a sudden I'm the MC.
Yeah.
I had done for a short time with the Anchorman when I had left the Kingsmen, but not very much. And, and that was a job within itself. And I think y'all wanted to touch on that.
Yeah. We want a little bit.
I'll go ahead and jump into that. I sent David Stewart, our friend, our mutual friend, everybody, he's a big fan of and friend of gospel music, but he helps monitor the Kingsmen Quartet tribute page back in those days. And so I sent David a message and I said, David, I said, I fell into this MC thing that I want to do. And I said, I want you to send, because I knew there could never be another Hamill.
Right.
There will never be another Jim Hamill. And, anybody that tries is silly because there'll never be another one. So I said, my MC style I knew was more ministerial. So I told him, I said, David, send me everything that you have, because he had all these home audio, clips and stuff. I said, send me everything you have from the late 90s. And I said, and send me everything that Parker was MC. I said, because I feel like that's more my style. I'll probably take some pointers from him rather than trying to be Jim, because it's just not. So that was my approach, and it worked. And
it did.
I thought Parker was a great MC. There was nobody that could have stepped in after Hamill retired to me and could have taken that. It had to be a totally different style of
absolutely
MC work.
Absolutely.
And that's what Parker did. Is he didn't try to be Hamill. He did his own thing. And I felt like his style kind of matched mine, and so.
Plus, like you said, you used the terminology, you kind of fell into it. And so when Crawford got struck down with them strokes and he had to step off the bus and Bob was leaving, and I mean, it kind of fell in your lap. And I'm sure the first several nights you're like, oh no, what am I going to say? And you're going to stumble over stuff. And, because people need to realize if you're not singing, then you're talking. And so you have, and not only do you have to MC, but you've got to call the program.
That's right.
And if what you have, I mean, you can have an idea what you're going to do that night, but if something changes midstream, you kind of got to go with it. Mm-hmm. And I know during my second tenure, when I stepped in, I'm the MC, and man, it was terrible. The first 6 months was I'm like stumble over my words and mispronouncing things, and so it was a big job, but you did a wonderful job. And I watched several concerts, and we at the time I think I was with another quartet. We did a couple concerts with you guys, and you did a wonderful job. So that was I applaud you for that, for jumping in there with both barrels and just kind of went after it, So
it became easier, but you're right. At first, it's you just don't know what's going to happen, and you're trying to get control of everything, and
right,
all the moving parts. And then you got Ray Dean, bless his heart, on the end, and he'll want to interject something every now and then. And of course, being respectful to the Hall of Famer, you got to give him his time.
You got to let him say it. Got to let him say it.
Oh goodness, Chris, while you're touring on the road with Gold City nowadays, and while you was with the Kingsmen, what was your favorite go-to snack, sir?
It's all years ago, or when I first started with the Kingsmen, it was Cheez-Its. I love Cheez-Its, always have. And I think I've put that on just about every profile I've ever done in gospel music. But these days, I'm trying not to take in as many carbs, so I can't really say that anymore. But I still love a good Cheez-It every now and then.
Well, to me, Cheez-Its, I don't know. They just don't. To me, they don't have much flavor. That's just me. That's just me. But
get you the spicy ones, yeah.
No, well, I might try that. So, Chris, what's one of your favorite things about life on the road in general? What's one of your favorite things about life on the road?
I enjoy it. The first time when I joined the Kingsmen, that's the first time I'd ever traveled on a bus.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of adjusting. I remember that first night, first weekend, Ernie was still with us, and I was in, well, you would know, Brian, I
Yeah.
was in Harold's old bunk on the bottom.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I felt like I was in a coffin.
Yeah.
And, there was ceiling above me, and
Oh yeah.
I just felt closed in. I'm not a claustrophobic person, but that really made me feel like I probably was a little bit claustrophobic.
Sure.
But you get used to it.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know. People think, well, you must get to see a whole lot, or you get to see the world. You really don't. You see a Walmart parking lot about every morning,
Yeah.
a hotel, and then the church parking lot. There's really not a lot to see.
Right.
But I think my favorite part of traveling with the Kingsmen was sitting up there with Ray Dean and hearing the stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that I would solicit stories as much as he just something would prompt his mind, and he
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
telling them, and that's what I love, because he, of course, he was trying to talk over his westerns, playing
Yeah.
but
Gunsmoke and Have Gun Will Travel and Bonanza.
but I wouldn't give anything for sitting up there with Ray Dean and just hearing all the stories of,
Oh man,
what he's experienced and everything he's been through. And
yeah.
there was some lighthearted conversations, and then there were some, deep conversations.
Yeah.
I remember after I came back, while I was away for that year or so, when I was gone from the Kingsmen, he had lost his wife during that
Yeah.
time in
Carolyn, yeah.
2016. And so after I come back, she had already passed away, and that was hard. And I, tried to be a listening ear, because I knew
Yeah.
that he, needed that at that time.
Yeah.
And, we were between members, a lot during that year. And so, I was the one up there,
Yeah.
an ear, at that
Yeah.
point, that was constantly there. And so, I tried to be that for him, but I wouldn't take anything for those moments.
Man, that's great. That's great.
Chris, what about your least favorite thing about life on the road?
My least favorite thing is I'm not a fast food person, and
Yeah.
that, when you're on the road, that's about the only thing that's open
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of fast food, and that's just not my type of. Listen, I want a meat and three when I'm eating, good old country cooking or
Yeah.
something like that. So, a hamburger just sometimes don't cut it. So I would say that's probably my least favorite thing about traveling, is just the inconvenience of not having. Of course, on a quartet bus you can bring stuff to eat, and
Right.
we did a lot of times, but
Yeah.
but just not having a lot of choices late at night.
Right. Right.
Be the least favorite thing.
Because oftentimes the bus will park, and whatever's close, that's where you eat.
Yes.
And so I found myself many a nights starved to death, but I didn't want a Whataburger, or I didn't want a greasy hamburger. So I'd go to a convenience store and get a jar of salsa and get a bag of tortilla chips, and that's what I had when everybody else was eating the hamburgers and French fries and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And if there's a Waffle House, I'd go into Waffle House, but as you get older, you're thinking, do I need all that at 11 o'clock at night? I better pass on that. So
our thing, I remember Bob and I, especially Bob and I, but Randy too, we'd keep boxes of cereal on the bus.
Yeah.
So late at night, it wasn't anything for us to just get a bowl of cereal and eat it. That was, and that was good, at that time of night. I mean, it wasn't good for us, but it was good to us.
Yes. Well,
That's all better.
And before Josh asked the next question, you mentioned about the bunk, about how dark it is in the bunk and how small it is in the bunk.
Yeah.
Just to give the folks watching on the YouTube. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, you can't see what I'm doing, but I would lay my elbow flat on the mattress next to me, and the tip of my finger would touch the roof of the bunk. So that's how much room you really had. I mean, you're literally in there. I mean, it's a very small area you have in some of those bunk. So that just kind of gives you an idea. If you're claustrophobic and you pull that curtain closed, and it's dark in the bunk area too. When the lights are off, you can't see nothing. So.
I like it that way though, and it got to where I slept better on the bus than I did at home.
Yeah,
because that's what I was used to.
Oh yeah,
4 out of the 7 days a week.
Right.
And plus, if you get up in the middle of the night and go to the restroom or something, you got to be careful too, not to fall down probably because the bus is moving. Yeah.
You never kept stuff in the floor because man, if something was laying on the floor, man, you're gonna trip over it and bust your face or something. So
I'll never forget one night. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Randy. Brought his bass guitar one week and had placed it, kind of beside his bunk. Along the side of the bunk. Well, the bus driver didn't know that his bass guitar was there, and he came down there in the middle of the night after he got parked, and I mean, just fell all over that bass guitar case, woke everybody. I mean, it sounded like the whole world was coming down, and I'll never forget that. That was so funny.
Was that old Daniel? Was that
old
Daniel Branson?
Yep.
Diamond Dan. Yeah.
Diamond Dan. All right. Funny. Well, Chris, Kingsman fans, and we've asked this question just about every episode.
Yeah.
Kingsman fans are very loyal and they love the group, and man, they'll drive hours to go hear the group, to support the group. And I'm thankful for that. But sometimes as members of the Kingsmen, we have heard some crazy or off the wall or funny things that fans have said to us. Can you recall of something funny or unique or odd that a fan said to you?
I'll never forget this, and I think it was in East Tennessee. It was somewhere close to Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
This lady came up to me after a concert, and we was all at the table shaking hands and things. She got down on her on one knee and proposed, but she wasn't proposing for her. She was proposing for her granddaughter.
You're kidding me.
She thought I would want to marry, I guess. And of course, I was single at that time, but, I don't know what made her think that. Maybe she had read something and singing it or something.
Wow.
It wasn't something that we made public, but she wanted her granddaughter to marry me, and she was proposing. I mean, she was serious about it too. She said, my granddaughter, she's a doctor, and you don't ever have to want for anything. I mean, she was serious about it.
Wow.
Well, Ray's always sick. He could look at something and get sick. So I'm sure he would have liked to have had a doctor involved in the Kingsman families.
Yes.
So let me ask you this: Did you happen to see the granddaughter? Did you ever happen to see her?
Oh yeah, she showed me a picture of her, I think, on her phone.
Okay, was she halfway pretty?
Yeah, she was a beautiful girl.
Okay.
But, my thinking, in that moment was like, now, she may be pretty, but she may not want to marry me.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to think about your granddaughter here for a second. You want this, but does she want this,
Well, I think that this is the first. We've never heard about a proposal at a Kingsman concert right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
That's probably the most unique one we've heard so far.
It is.
Oh, goodness.
That is so funny.
Thank you for that, Chris. Yeah. Brian, we got some Facebook questions for Chris here that we'll ask right quickly.
Okay.
The first one coming from Mr. Greg Deals. He said, among the old school tenors, who would be your favorite? He gives examples like Rosie Roselle, Denver Crumpler, Bill Shaw. Any of yours that comes to mind?
Those are all good, and I loved Rosie. I thought he was great, but my very favorite was Pat Hoffmaster.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I think Pat Hoffmaster was probably one of the greatest voices
ever
in gospel music.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Got one here from Grady Hartley. He says he's heard Chris mention about growing up in North Carolina, and like himself, he grew up there in North Carolina and being influenced by Heaven Bound, the group. What is your favorite Heaven Bound song?
Hello, this is Kingsman alumni Randy Crawford. Thanks for supporting the Behind the Crown podcast.
There's too many to name, but my very favorite would have to be. I love the deep cuts. I mean, when I say deep cuts, I mean songs that weren't necessarily singles. Maybe they used album cuts or hidden on the album that didn't get a lot of attention. That's what I gravitate toward a lot of times because people hear the singles all the time.
Yeah, true.
Those are played often. So I like songs that, I root for the underdog, I guess.
Yeah.
But there was a song that they cut in the late 80s called There's a City Being Built.
Yes.
And that's probably my all-time favorite Heaven Bound song. There was also another one called Have You Been Beneath the Fountain? It may have been off that same record, but it was around that same time. But that's a great song too. But all of them. My favorite Heaven Bound album, I will tell you, is the Live in Springfield that they did in
great album.
And that's, to me, there wasn't a bad song on that record.
Yeah. And it to me, Heaven Bound, even though they were a trio, they didn't sound like a trio.
No.
I mean, they had energy. They had great songs.
Yeah.
And man, and their little 3-piece band, man, they would rock it. I mean, they could get out there and get it done. I mean, they were awesome. I saw Kingsmen, Gold City, and Heaven Bound, those three groups probably more than any other groups because those three groups would always come to Indianapolis every year, at least twice a year, usually in the spring and in the fall. The promoter would bring those three groups in, and Heaven Bound would usually open. And I mean, it was a great night because they had great kicking songs. And I'm a teenager, and I'm loving everything they did. So big Heaven Bound.
I wore out that Indiana Live record.
Oh yeah, man! Yeah. And I was there that night. I
thought I remembered you saying you were. Yeah,
that was great.
And because that had all my favorite groups on it.
Oh yeah, man, that's great.
That's right. Next question comes, actually 2 questions here from Hunter Dixon. He said, Chris, what is your favorite era of gospel music?
My favorite era would have, to me, 86 through about 99 to me is what I would consider the golden era of my generation of gospel music. I mean, what my generation would have remembered, that was the golden era to me. I thought the greatest songs, the greatest arrangements came out during that time. You had a lot, and I mean this in the most respectful way, but in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a lot of novelty songs.
Yeah.
A lot of things that groups were cutting that it wasn't necessarily all quality, but as far as the song selection, but I thought from the mid and late 80s all the way through the 90s, I thought the songs, the production, everything to me, that was the era to me.
Yes, sir. Right. And then Hunter also asked, being from North Carolina, which style of barbecue do you prefer? Eastern North Carolina style or Western North Carolina style?
I love both styles. There's a place in Lexington, North Carolina called Lexington Barbecue. Of course, Lexington is what North Carolina considers the barbecue capital of the state. They have a big barbecue festival there every year. Thousands of people come there, and but there's one place called Lexington Barbecue that is my favorite. And then Eastern style, a friend of ours named Sam Jones owns Sam Jones Barbecue and Skylight Inn, which his grandfather started. And to me, that's the best of the Eastern style. Now, there's certain places that, if I could get slaw from this place, barbecue from this place, cornbread from that place, then I would put a good barbecue meal together. But as far as all in all, those are my two favorites. And the difference is, to my knowledge, is that Eastern style uses the whole hog. And it's a vinegar based, sauce, whereas, Lexington style, which is Central and Western style, they use mostly the shoulder, and it's a ketchup based
Okay. Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, I'm glad you explained that, because I was going to say, well, for those people who never lived in North Carolina, explain that. And so you did. So thank you. So,
And in Central Carolina, where I live, Greensboro and Lexington, all that's in Central Carolina, we have red slaw, which is ketchup-based slaw instead of mayonnaise.
okay.
Wow.
And that's a delicacy. You know, it's not for everybody. Everybody don't like it, but it sure is good with the barbecue.
Yeah. Now, you talking about slaw. I'll interject something right quick. Brian talked a little bit about KFC slaw that he likes, and I'm not really a big coleslaw fan, but down in Jacksonville, Florida, there's a barbecue place called the Bearded Pig, and they have a vinegar-based slaw, and that is good stuff. That's the only slaw.
Bearded Pig.
Bearded Pig, yep. Yes, sir.
Now, my grandma always put vinegar in her mayonnaise-based slaw.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kind of gave it a little twang. But y'all were talking about KFC before we got started on this podcast, and I can't think about KFC without thinking about Randy Crawford. And y'all, I don't know if you got him to tell this on the podcast. Probably not, because not many people know. But you'll have to get him back on here and get him to tell you why you can't get slaw with a number 2 chicken box at KFC.
You can't get slaw with that.
That was something that, you know, it was a story about his dad had went into KFC and tried to order.
Yeah.
He didn't want fries with it. He wanted slaw, and couldn't get the clerk to understand to switch out. She said, "Sir, slaw don't come with a number 2 chicken box." He said, "I understand that. What I want to do is substitute this, you know, what it comes with for slaw." And she said, "Well, sir, that just don't come that way." And finally, he just said, "Ma'am, just ring me up for a number 2 and then give me a side of slaw to go on the side." She couldn't get her to understand, but that was always
that is
thing on the bus. That's hilarious. Randy always said, "You know, you can't get slaw with the number 2 chicken box."
Oh, that's good. That's great.
That's great.
The next Facebook question comes from Brian Sexton. He said, "Chris, what was the greatest lesson you learned as a member of the Kingsmen that helped you as a member of Gold City?"
Wow. You know, going back to the MC work, I'll have to say that was something that probably prepared me for more than anything. I've always been a shy person. I've never, you know, I've always been meek and shy and not really. I'm an introvert, basically.
Yeah.
But when I started singing, that really got me out of my shell. And then when I had to take over the MC work, that really makes you be more outgoing, you know. And so I'll have to say that was probably having the MC work fall in my lap was probably the best thing that ever happened to me for my personality, for my growth as a person, you know, and a lot of things that, like I said, Ray Dean said down through the years, and just bits of wisdom that he had learned over the years that he passed along has, you know, has stuck with me all these years. And I still use a lot when I'm dealing with people, when I'm dealing with business, when I'm out, you know, at the record table. You know, sometimes people come by and, like you said, say the craziest things or strangest things, or they seem that way to us. But, you know, you just keep smiling, keep going.
Yeah.
You know, you don't ever try to hardly correct them, you know, because in their mind, they're always right. There was this woman that came by the table. I remember when Chris Bryant was brand new with the group, and she said, "Y'all sing that 'Oh, What a Savior.' I used to love when Rosie O'Donnell sang 'Oh, What a Savior.'"
Rosie O'Donnell.
He said, "Ma'am, I think you mean Rosie Roselle." She said, "No, it's not. It's Rosie O'Donnell. I know. I've heard him sing it 1,000 times." And he said, "Just ask him. He's the one that sings it." And so, you know, Chris kind of punched me with his arm. He said, "Hey," he said, "Tell this lady who sang 'Oh, What a Savior' back in the day," he said, she said it was Rosie O'Donnell, wasn't it? And I said, yes, ma'am. Good to have you tonight.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, she wasn't gonna,
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
she wasn't gonna change her mind. So
no way,
you just
no
gotta,
way.
you know, say yes, ma'am, and keep going.
Yeah, you just kind of smile and just keep going. Yeah.
Goodness. One more here from Joshua Adair. Chris, he wants to know, what is your favorite Southern Gospel project or album, CD, cassette that you ever heard before? Your favorite of all time?
Of any group.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
That's a tough one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's so tough because I have a favorite from just about every group.
Yeah.
But as far as putting it all in one, I mean, it's hard to.
I tell you what, do your three favorite groups. Do it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
It's simple.
I've already told you Heaven Bound.
Yeah.
Cathedrals was traveling live in Winston,
Yeah.
North Carolina, 1986. Had Bloodwash Band and Boundless Love on there and lots of other good songs. Gold City would be Pillars of Faith, 1992. And my all-time favorite Kingsmen album is 1989, live in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Great record. And I was there that night too.
Yeah.
Wow.
That to me, sonically, you know, Ray always set sound for all those live recordings, but
Yeah.
whoever mixed that, and I'm assuming it was somebody at Benson or whoever,
Yeah.
Kevin McManus or somebody like that. But whoever was involved in mixing that, to me, that's the best Ray Dean sounded on a live record of all the records that the Kingsmen ever did. Ray's voice was just so full and warm and crisp.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the best that he sounded on any live recording. And I don't know what it was about that record, but I just loved it. Of course, that had Go and Tell Somebody. They did The Judgment that night, and Real Good Feel Good Song.
One of my favorites was one that Shepherd did, In the Name of Jesus.
Yes.
What a beautiful song.
Jesus, the Name That Set Me Free.
Yes, great song.
Record, great song. It just had so many good ones on there. But my second favorite, I'll go ahead and tell you my second Kingsman record, and I'm not just saying this because he's on here, but Shelter. When Shelter came out, to me, I thought, you know, that really brought me back to, well, You're Not Alone came out, and that was a great record.
Yeah.
I remember, but when Shelter came out, you know, Crossroads was mixing those projects hot. And so when you put that CD in, Shelter and I Will, the last record you were on.
Yeah.
Brian, to me, as soon as you put that CD in the player, it was like, bam, it was in your face.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, to me, those late 90s Kingsman records to me were, you know, some of the best that they ever did, but Shelter's right up there with Live in Dayton to me.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone, for the great Facebook questions, and looking forward to our next guest. We'll ask again and get some more great Facebook questions, Brian.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for that. Yeah.
Well, Chris, if you could pick 3 other singers, past or present, from any genre of music, not necessarily Southern gospel, so you could sing a song with 3 other singers, who would you pick?
That's a hard one. Some of my favorites are, well, first of all, you know, a lot of my favorite singers would sing the same part as me. So I'm not
Okay. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind singing, you know, alto underneath Celine Dion.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You know, or alto under Dolly. You know, those are my favorite female vocalist. But you know, I don't know what part me and Steve Perry would have to fight for. You know, I'd let him take the top part. You know,
I'd let him take whatever part he wanted, and I'd find something else. You know?
Yeah.
Cool.
But you know, to me, if I could pick, you know, just singers in general that I would, you know, have loved to have sung with, you know, like I said, Steve Perry's one of my favorite male vocalists. Ivan, to me, was one of the greatest lead singers that's ever.
Yeah.
Music. Like I said, I love Pat Hoffmaster. There's just so many. Squire to me was just a magnificent singer.
Oh yeah, man.
Just could sing, he could do lead or he could do baritone.
Whatever he wanted to do, man, he could do it.
Just was solid, in his part.
Yeah.
And that would have to be, those are pretty much my favorites.
Wow, that's great. That's a great list.
It's been another great episode of Behind the Crown podcast with our very special guest tonight, Chris Jenkins. Brian, it's been another great one, and looking forward to next week. But you be sure to find Behind the Crown podcast on wherever you get your podcast from, on all the major podcast platforms. And then also you can find Behind the Crown podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as well.
That's right. Come back next week for episode 2 of our interview with Chris Jenkins.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Behind the Crown podcast with your hosts, Brian Hudson and Josh Griffin. If you would, please like, rate, and share this episode. Join us again for another episode of the Behind the Crown podcast.